environmental pundit Stuart Brand, all designs are predictions, and all predictions are wrong. And this hardly sounds like a formula for sustainable living. So I've argued that the sustainability of everything is about keeping life going. And yet design based on the science of sustainability seems intent on bringing life to a stop by specifying moments of completion when things fall into line with prior projections. If design brings predictability and foreclosure to a life process that is inherently open-ended, then is not design the very antithesis of life? Remember Clay, form is the end, death, he said. Form giving is life. So how can we think of design as part of a process of life whose outstanding characteristic is not that it tends to a limit, but that it carries on? And to do so, as I've argued, we will have to think differently of the world and of our place in it. Just let me remind you of my earlier observation that in the plenum, every apparent infill is really a reworking. And what goes for building in the plenum also goes, as I have shown, for research. For the claim of scientific research, namely that it aims to fill gaps in our knowledge or understanding, rests on a logic of addition, on the idea that our knowledge of the world, though currently incomplete, will ultimately add up to a totality. But for an itinerant practice of research that follows the ways of the world from within, there are no gaps to fill. Every journey is both an original movement and a doubling up, a reworking, in which we differentiate emergent phenomena even as we join with them. It is, to recall the words of Karan Barad, a cutting together apart. To research the plenum, as she writes in another context, is to become part of the world in its differential becoming. An experience thus as a way of life, research continually surpasses itself. It is not an addition, but a concrescent. So with that, we can return to anthropology and to art. And I have just three final points to make in conclusion concerning, respectively, education, democracy, and citizenship. First, research in art, as in anthropology, would be mere solipsism, a gratuitous journey of self-discovery, were it not more fundamentally a practice of education. It is incumbent on us to give to the coming generation in return for the gift we have received in our own formation from the past. The commitment of education, as John Dewey taught more than a century ago, is to the continuity of life. But this is to take the meaning of education quite literally as a way of leading out. In Latin, ex out, ducere to lead, ex ducere, the origin of education. Leading out. It's a deep depositioning or exposure, the aim of which is not to furnish every student with a destiny in life, but rather to undestine and unfinish, so that each can begin anew. Or in the words of the educational philosopher Jan Maschlein, it is to seek after truth, not the truth about the real, but the truth that comes out of the real in the experience. It is for art, as it is for anthropology, to offer experience as an imaginative opening to truth. This doesn't amount exactly to a program of emancipation or for transforming the world. Art and anthropology in their educational mission are rather touchstones for the world's transformation of itself. And this transformation, as we've seen, unfolds along multiple pathways. It is, in essence, a conversation. Like life, conversations carry on. They have no particular beginning point or end point. No one knows in advance what will come out of them, nor can their conduct be carried on, dictated by any one partner. They are truly collective achievements, but they are potentially life-changing for all involved. So let us think of the art of sustainability then as a conversation, embracing not only human beings, but all the other constituents of the living world, from non-human animals of all sorts to trees, rivers, mountains, and the earth. And this brings me to my second point, namely that the conversation is not only processual and open-ended, but fundamentally democratic. I don't mean democracy in the sense of a head count, which sorts everyone into those with common or opposed interests. In a sustainable democracy, that is one with room for everyone and everything, now and forever, people cannot be counted, and nor can things. And yet in their conjoint action and affective resonance, they constitute a public. As Jane Bennett has written after Dewey, publics are groups of bodies with the capacity to affect and be affected. And whether human or non-human, these are bodies in correspondence, not yet separated from their voices or from the medium in which they mix and mingle. In the democratic conversation, each has something to give, something to contribute, precisely because all are different. And together they comprise what Alfonso Linkis, in a rather apt turn of phrase, calls the community of those who have nothing in common. And my third point follows from this. It concerns citizenship. For within a democratic community that is open-ended and unbounded, rather than closed in the defence of common interests, citizenship arises not as a right or entitlement given from the start, but as something you have to work at. This is the work of commoning, not the discovery of what you have in common to begin with, but the imaginative act of casting your experience forward along ways that join with others in carrying on a life together. Only then can citizenship be truly sustainable. The road to sustainability, in short, lies in correspondence. So art and anthropology, I suggest, potentially afford new ways of thinking about democracy and citizenship, ways that could give hope to future generations. At the present juncture, however, they have been pushed to the margins, above all by the relentless expansion of big science, aided and abetted by multinational corporations and neoliberal globalization. And with them has gone the question from which all inquiry must begin, and indeed from which I began this talk: how ought we to live? Big science is not interested in this question because it believes it can already deliver the answers. Or if not already, then within the next not too distant future. These answers offer totalizing solutions that would fix the planet once and for all for the benefit of universal humanity. But mega projects of geoengineering, were they ever implemented, will not secure the sustainability of everything, but more likely its opposite, the ultimate extinction of life. When the dinosaurs went extinct, it was the small mammals that inherited the earth, among them the weasel. Perhaps the most famous weasel in history will turn out to be the one that bit through an electric cable, putting the largest machine ever built, CERN's Large Hadron Collider, out of action for a week. The collider is perhaps the greatest expression of scientific hubris we have yet seen, dedicated as it is to discovering the final truth of the universe, one that will leave us mortals with no place to be. It is the delusional project of our time, truly a machine for the end of the world. But when big science collapses, as it is bound to do, along with the global economy that sustains it, art and anthropology, like that famous weasel, will hold the future in their hands. We must be ready for it. Thank you.
Now the discussion, the debate is open to everybody. So just to follow the ideas that were exposed by Tim Ingold, the word is circulating between all of us.
Não quis sentar.
Duas pessoas, pelo menos, ouviram levantar o braço. Talvez começar aqui, se não se importar. Por favor.
Okay. Professor Ingold, thank you for your talk. It was marvelous. I was wondering if, according to what you have said in most of your wonderful texts, namely Marché avec les dragons, special selection of texts, and also in The Life of Lines, sometimes I get the idea that there is a kind of a missing link in what you were saying and what you said to us today. Namely, beginning with the notion of correspondence, it seems to me that is very akin to what the Chilean school of autopoiesis called the structural coupling. And I would like to hear you, because some anthropologists have used that framework, namely Christina Torrens, for instance, in a very elegant way. And I wonder if that notion of correspondence could also be theorized according to that framework.
I think I haven't sat down to put the two side by side and work out exactly where they're the same or different. But from what I know of it, and also from I know Christina's work well, there are lots of correspondences. There are lots of it matches up in many ways. Autopoiesis, of course, literally means self-making and self-generating, and in that I'm entirely. That's also what I'm trying to say. That the forms are things that emerge within sets of ecological relations. They're self-generating. The other parallel too between what I'm saying and what Christina is saying, drawing on autopoiesis theory, is the emphasis on ontogenesis, on developmental processes. That we have to take those, or the becoming of being, that we have to put ontogenesis at the very heart of the way we're thinking about the world and how things form. So in that we are one. I have had arguments with Christina about the extent to which the processes we're talking about are specific to human beings. She tends to say that they are, and they're therefore specifically historical processes. I want to try and show how we can sort of, develop a perspective that would collapse the distinction between history and evolution and show that the same processes that are going on in history are also going on in the organic world. And that would fit perfectly well with what Maturana and Varela say about
the natural drift.
Yes. So I think there are lots of parallels. There are probably differences as well, but I haven't sat down to precisely work them out, so I couldn't tell you. But I just have an intuitive feeling that there is a difference. I know with Varela, I know that there is a difference. His view is a bit more cognitive than mine, a bit more focusing on intellection as a process.
When you were talking about being and knowing, He speaks about living and knowing.
Yeah.
The same thing.
Yeah. But as you say, there are a great many parallels, and we're certainly on the same page, and compared with, we're on the same side. In big debates.
Hi, and thank you for your talk. It was fascinating. I was listening to it, and I was debating with this idea that comes up very often. Very simple idea of how do we factor in our current understanding of history into this whole model. Namely, when we're confronted with the fact that we see bad ideas that were used in the past coming up again today, and we are kind of brought back into this position where we must say, let's not repeat that, because it was bad, fundamentally. So how do we factor in that certainty with the uncertainty of the model that you're...
I kind of wish I knew, but I think maybe we are, everybody, we're all searching around for a solution to this problem. But I have a feeling that we need to rethink our idea of what history actually is. There's another piece I wrote, which was called "The North is Everywhere," because my own sort of ethnic, the region where I worked is the North, and Northern people, particularly Northern Indigenous people, that is people around the second pole of the North, have an understanding of what history is, which is quite different from the established Western view, the sort of taught by historians and put in historian textbooks. And that is an idea that history is something that grows from the land. And it lies in the actions of people and animals and the way they relate together and the stories they tell about themselves and their movements in the environment itself. So that history is not in any sense written over the land or on it, but it emerges from it. And I call that the Western history is a history of, and Northern history is a history from. It's a history that develops from the land, or particularly the land. And I'm thinking that if we could change the way we think about history so that we can begin to reconnect the stories we tell with the lives we lead, so that we can see that there's no point where story ends and life begins, because they're all part of the same yarn, then we might be able to begin, firstly, to tell better stories, and secondly, to see how those stories can actually inform our own lives. You see what I mean? There is a tendency to think that stories are just stories, and life is life. And history will tell us about life, but it isn't life itself. And that tends to lead people to a certain disinterestedness about history, about feeling that, oh, well, that was then. And just because of that, just because you can sort of put it aside, you can then end up repeating bad things in just the same way you said. So I think that if we could find a different way of reconnecting our own lived lives with the lived lives of people who've gone before us, and to see how there's no complete division between one and the other, then we would be maybe better positioned to deal with this issue. But I'm not sure. That's the best I can do. But I do think that there's room for rethinking history as it is presented, say, in schools. It's a history of, a history about, not a history from.
You talked about art and anthropology, and my question is, how do you see the connection between ways of seeing and ways of making in this connection? because you talked about 17th century painters, Dutch painters, and that's, I remember, for instance, John Berger, who talked a lot about this framing of the visual world and the non-European world that starts in this period, and the domestic world is dominant.
But it's precisely the framing that I mean, because the landscape painting or whatever kind of painting it is, they were of course seeing the world in a particular way and describing it with great accuracy sometimes, because there wasn't a thing. I'm reading Svetlana Alpes's book on that. There's no point. In those days, there was no clear distinction between painting and cartography. They more or less merged into one or the other. Mapping, painting. For some pictures, it would be difficult to say whether it was a painting or a map. It could be both, and it was supposed to be accurate. But it did entail a particular view on the world, but taken from a certain perspective, and it was in a frame. And I had the feeling that when you look at what ethnographers write about what the craft of ethnography is or should be in the classical mode, you find much the same ideals being expressed. The ideal is summed up in Clifford Geertz's famous notion of what that ethnographer does in thick description. Well, he got that through Gilbert Ryle, but you have this idea of thick description. It looks like that's an oil painting. It's like one of those really rich, detailed oil paintings, which indeed they are. But they are framed. They're putting people. They are looking at it from a certain point of view, and they're putting people in the frame and saying, now, if you're going to understand these people, we have to place what they think and what they do within a cultural or historical context. And I, the ethnographer, I'm going to give you that context.
Yeah.
So that then you will understand what these people are saying. And that way of thinking is still dominant in anthropology. So there's a certain double thing. When we go into the field, we are very submissive and say, no, we're just ethnographers, we're here to learn from everybody, we put ourselves at the disposal of our hosts and claim that we're learning from them, and then we go back and write them up. And the whole thing turns upside down, because that fieldwork then becomes the basis for our professional authority to speak on behalf of those. And you get awful phrases in the literature, like Geertz's Balinese. Clifford Geertz famously did some fieldwork in Bali and wrote about them, about their sense of personhood and time. And so people read what he writes, and they say, Geertz's Balinese, as though he owned them. As though his property, because he's framed them, he's got them out there on the wall. And that I find, it's really bothersome.
That's still the core of the courses of history and of every single study.
Yeah.
I mean, historicism.
Historical.
To understand things, putting them into their context.
Yes. And that
that's
might be
the
part of
fundamental
the answer
error.
to your question too, because by putting them, by putting history in its context, we think we've got it done and dusted. We've understood that, and that neutralises the power of the presence of what really happened, and takes it, in a sense, sort of takes it away from our consciousness. And that part of the process. Yes.
Can I ask you something?
There's one over there. Yes.
Thank you. Right, and I beg apologize for my name. I have come all the way from Germany to hear from you. Once you spoke on Johannes Fabian, and then in German and the other, his famous book, he was discussing about this vision of anthropology who accuses ethnographers on anachronism while speaking of primitive people. And then he suggests that is not an anachronism, is an error. but it should be a localism. And nowadays, looking for the politics of heritage, we have come to understand that perhaps this same localism is still on work.
Yeah.
So my question is, what solutions, not asking directly, but how could we reconstruct these ideas on the politics of heritage, since they are needed, because some of them are devices for imposing political strategies, and how could we overcome this so-called localism?
This is a very, very complex question, and again, it's one of those things that if we had the answer, we would be. but surely it's something to do with, I think, it's something to do with the objectification of memory, of turning people's, we're talking about people's pasts under this label of heritage. What has come down to people from the past that they value? We have to take it seriously. There's stuff in the past, we value it, we appreciate it, and we don't want it, we want in some way or other to keep it alive, keep it going, and so we should not be cynical about the whole heritage project. It's something that people deeply value, but we have to make it meaningful and prevent it being turned into banalized into a sort of commodity. And what's happening, I think, is that when you take the past and turn it into a commodity, when you objectify it, then you can't help creating an absolute break between the present and the past. The simple process of objectification imposes a cut, so that the past was back then, and we are now. And so it's always a question of how far you have to go back for that cut to occur, that memories are not so raw. And this is regularly contentious. If you just think about memories of war, for example, when does the Battle of Waterloo is now become a sort of heritage thing. At the time, it killed thousands of people. And then you think, okay, but we're so far away, we can just treat this as this object that we know about and we hear about in history lessons, and but we don't any longer sort of think about it as something that is actually part of our own subjectivity. And so the question is how can we think about memory in such a way that we don't turn it into an object of our concerns, but actually can bring it into the present in such a way that we can continually engage with it. And that again is a sort of answer to your question that you posed earlier, that if we can, it's like when you meet somebody you haven't seen for ages, and you haven't really thought about them, and you suddenly, for some reason, there they are. And you say, oh, I remember you, and then you start having a conversation. And the remembering there is not saying, oh, you're an object of my memory. You're a real living person who's now with me and that I can have a conversation with. And in medieval times, people were reading liturgical texts about the doings of saintly characters. And they actually believed that as they read the texts, these characters would be there and they could converse with them. So it's a matter of bringing that past into a living present so that you can engage with it directly rather than setting it aside as an object of memory. If one could do that, then that would be, I think that's the way we should try to go. But it's very difficult to do that in a context in which heritage is part of a market-driven industry. Yeah. There was a question over research.
I wanted to ask you about the emergence of non-institutionalized ways of doing research, not seeking academia purposes, not responding directly to a museum or a cultural institution, but rather being on the field itself, making with the people.
This again, it's a really tricky issue because I do think that somehow the meaning of this word research, I don't know, but in my impression that everybody's talking about research these days. It's become a buzzword to a degree that was not the case 50 years ago. And I have a feeling too that the meaning of research has been corrupted by this, and that it's partly due to the way research is funded, and partly to the way it's institutionalized, and partly due to the way in which it has been professionalized. So that there are professional people who do research as part of their career, and their results then contribute to building up that career and the funding and positions and everything that depend on it. And the conversation that I was having in a workshop with some colleagues a few weeks ago, one of us said in the group, you know, we should all be amateurs. And what she meant by that was not that we should be sort of useless, or simple-minded or banal, but that we should do research because we love what we study. That's what amateur really means. And the difficulty is, as you say, that maybe 50 years ago, or 100 years ago certainly, a scientist, or a historian or whatever, could carry on their research because they love it, the study is their way of life, and also kind of manage financially. And after all, a lot of the greatest figures of 19th century science were amateurs. Darwin was an amateur. I mean, these people were not supported by institutions with all the funding that is needed. So what has happened is I think, particularly over the last 30 or 40 years, that the division between institutionally funded and supported professional research and everything else has become very wide. I wish we could find ways of closing it again, and I'm not sure how to do it because of the funding, particularly because of the funding issues. But I do think that when we start thinking about what universities should be like in the future, for example, this is a key thing that we have to consider, because something's gone badly wrong at the moment. And the extent to which the amateur and the professional have become split apart. And I don't know how to resolve it. It needs resolution.
Another one?
Just wondering.
Pode-se levantar, facilitar. Desculpe, fica melhor no vídeo. E percebe-se melhor o que diz.
I was just wondering what you think about anthropology, as it is a very important issue for artistic research.
I don't mind it, but I hate the word. And I think